Okay, it's been several weeks since we returned from Europe and haven't had much in the way of doing any recording, etc. A couple of reasons for that. The major one is that I ended up getting a case of shingles in my face. You can probably see a little bit of it still on the right hand side. After we returned, directly after we returned from Europe, and I've been in recovery mode since then. In the past week, Tricia and Rachel went for a bit of a camping trip with my brother and sister-in-law and their two daughters, and we're now just starting to get into the swing of some harvest. Because it's August. In fact, today is August the 12th, and we are starting to bring in some of the vegetables, etc., that have been growing in the garden since earlier in the spring, and we're starting to put them up. Good morning. It has been a while since we've video recorded anything, and I think it's August the 11th, a Saturday. We're anticipating rain fairly quickly. As you can see from the clouds, they're rolling in. But before the rain comes, we are harvesting beans. So green beans, purple beans, and yellow beans. And you can see Rachel and Tricia in the bean aisle, and I'm working this side, and we're seeing how much we can actually pick.
Look over here. Look at these big beans. Look at the big beans here. And this is only picked a week ago.
So yeah, we picked a week ago, and they are becoming very prolific. If you take a look down there, you see a lot of yellow beans that are just hanging below the greenery itself. Anyways, let's get started. And
so I've gone only 6 feet. I've already got a bucket full.
Yeah, I've got a bucket full as well. So I'm going to empty this bucket, the bowl, into the bucket, and then get started again. So it's a little difficult to pick beans and demonstrate what I'm doing simultaneously with the camera. But I'll try my best for a little bit, and then you'll get the hang of it, and I won't record all of it because it's kind of long and tedious process. Well, I don't know.
What, long and tedious?
Not long, but kind of tedious because it's the same thing over and over again.
What, picking?
Yeah. And we've been, at least I have been, and I think you have been as well, Trish, picking beans most of our lives. So I can remember my grandfather, he had a half-acre garden plot after he had basically retired from farming. Half-acre garden plot that supplied much of the extended family. So my grandmother and grandfather, Opa and Oma, they had 10 kids, as you will see from the Epcauda pictures. I should probably show a picture of the entire family at some point. Maybe one of the ones on the farm when we had all the grandchildren and all that kind of stuff. There's a fairly large crowd, and he was always in the garden. So he was always planting food, harvesting food, and then Oma was responsible for processing much of it. Even though he did because he was a butcher in Holland before they immigrated. He was responsible for much of the processing of meat and that kind of thing. And then when my own parents, we always lived in cities because my father was a minister. My own parents had gardens either at the house or a variety of different locations, and the gardens were always quite extensive. My dad had serious back problems as a consequence of a car accident when I was very young, and my mother was killed in that car accident. Anyways, so his back was not very good, and as a consequence, much of the physical labor about preparing the soil, we didn't have no-till methods at that point in time, so it was always a couple. No.
What? Oh, you didn't have
I would be, because we didn't have money, so I would be by hand turning over the gardens once, if not twice, per year. So spade became my nemesis, and we always had beans and a variety of other vegetables that we were growing as well. And then
back to the beans. I've got this bean here, so that's kind of too far gone.
Yeah, that's not going to be good eating.
But it's got good seeds in them, so we'll save these big ones for seeds for next year.
And so what do you do to save them?
Well, the whole pod has to be totally dried up, and then you can take the seed out.
So the actual beans themselves?
Yeah, the beans themselves. Then that's what you use, and then I just put them in an envelope and put them with my other seeds for the next year.
Rachel, you want to say a few words about your thoughts about gardening, particularly when we were in Blackstock?
As a kid.
And how much you loved it?
Well, I mean, there were parts of it that we liked, but I just felt like we were weeding all the time and picking beans all the time. Those are the main jobs that we had, and like picking beans several times throughout the summer. So.
Well, generally beans are picked about 3 goes, and then the 4th one you just pick all the branches.
Yeah, I remember pulling out all the plants, and then we'd sit in a chair and
then
go through them and get the rest of the beans.
Yeah.
That was the easy one.
Yeah.
That was the most enjoyable ones because you knew that you wouldn't have to do it again from those plants.
What do you? I find that these pole beans are so much easier to pick than being bent over
for bush
picking
beans.
the bush beans. And I don't know, I think they're more prolific too, because you've got a whole bunch of space. Like the bush beans just go out once per plant kind of thing, and these ones just keep going up, and then you can see
there's
they're
more
just
under
going
here,
round and round. What?
Right against the fence here. My finger?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I will just do some more recording, or some more picking, and then get back to the video in a few minutes. Okay, this is what I've got. I think I picked the majority of the larger ones anyways. The smaller ones So there are some here, for instance, that are smaller ones that you can actually, we can leave those for next week. You see a bunch that are hanging there as well. But we are being chased by the rain. I don't know if you can see the rain on the, no, it's not on the lens, but it's certainly on the back panel of this particular camera. And we're getting wet.
Here, I'll take, if you want to take a bucket, please.
We are being chased by the rain. So Rachel's already gone in, and the dogs have gone in. And it's kind of nice to, yeah, I mean, it's warm enough,
Yeah.
and the rain isn't particularly cold.
Oh, well,
Yep.
these are the poison hemlock, not
Okay.
the Queen Anne's lace.
Yeah, but this is Queen Anne's lace over here, right?
Yeah. That's the first poison hemlock that
Okay.
they were all over Holland, remember?
Yeah. For those of you who are interested or worried, this camera is Nikon Coolpix. So it's a 1080p resolution, but it's designed for underwater. So it is waterproof. I don't know how many PSI it can actually withstand, but so we have no issues with bringing it outside in the rain. Gives us a little bit more flexibility. Our other camera, which is I can't even remember what it is, but it is not waterproof at all because it's a DSLR.
Nikon, isn't it?
No, I'm not using the Nikon. I'm using the Pentax. There we are. Here we are inside, and we're kind of wet. So we'll show you the processing of the beans as well. I think that's probably a good activity for this afternoon, considering that we're expecting to get a fair amount of rain throughout the entire day. Anyways, we'll talk to you again soon. So what I will show you is what we've done with the beans that we collected earlier today. So Patricia and I spent some time taking the ends off of them and cutting them. So here are the yellow beans that we collected, and there are some green beans that we've collected as well. And here are some of the purple beans, and we'll need to process these. We'll need to use a snide mold, so make them into French cuts, very, very small little slices that we use a machine that will actually do those cuts for us. Anyways, Patricia is blanching the beans and putting them into bags, and we'll just follow her along as she's going through this process, so you get a sense of how we prepare the beans for the freezer.
Yeah, so after cutting the ends off here, then I put them into boiling water, and now it has to come back to a boil, and when that does, then I let it boil for 4 minutes. So that's blanching the beans, and then I quickly rinse them in cold water, let them drain, and then I bag them in bags. Now here in Ontario, Canada, and I think I said this in last year's video too, but we get our milk in bags. So I think it's such a waste of plastic, so I thoroughly clean them and dry them, and I save them. And that's what I bag my beans in, or other things that we're freezing in the freezer. I bag meat in there. If I use it for meat though, I never use the bag again.
The bags are essentially a very thick plastic, and they come sealed. So it's a total sealed container. And then what we do when we're getting the milk out is just take a small snippet out of the corner. We'll show you that with a bag that we've got.
This is a bag in a container that we have, and we don't have any other bags, but this is how the bag is with the milk. And then you have to put it in a container to actually
hold it
because it's
now you've done it.
yeah, now I can't get it back all the way in.
But as
But
we
anyways,
use milk,
it'll go down.
Yeah.
So, and then you cut the corner off, and then you're able to pour it.
So the size of the volume that we have for each of these bags, there's 3 bags in a larger plastic bag, and that is 4 liters. So each bag is about 1.1 liters. Okay, so just wanted to show you this is the way that we get our milk. I won't show you the brand name, but so this is 4 liters of milk, and inside there are 3 bags. Of the type that we were showing you before. So that's essentially equivalent to about 1 gallon of milk. Yes, we can get cartons as well, but these are lower amounts of milk. So this particular carton is a 2-liter carton. And Canada has become, for several decades now, we measure things on the metric system here in Canada, rather than working with the imperial scale as they do in the US. So we're in accord with what happens in Europe, rather than what goes on in the United States in terms of measurement. In some industries like building, construction, etc., you'll still find that there's heavy reliance on the imperial system, so inches and feet, etc. From my background as a science educator and a professor of education, it's a much more complex system, much more difficult to actually learn, and consequently that much more difficult to unlearn. So we still have a mix of a whole bunch of things here in Canada, even though I personally would prefer that we move as swiftly as possible over to a metric system, just to make things easier for everybody. But that's not the view of everyone.
Okay, so now we've got the beans are starting to boil. So I'll put the timer on for 4 minutes and just let them go. Yeah, we have a whole. So not only do we have these beans that we've already cut and so on, or that need to be cut, we have a whole Home Depot big orange container full of beans yet too.
Pail.
A pail.
5-gallon pail.
Yeah, something like that.
But it won't be 5 gallons because we're in metric system here. So
Yeah.
whatever the equivalent is
So,
in liters.
and then while we were camping, Roland picked these tomatoes. So I think you picked them yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are pretty well our first tomatoes. We've had a few there. So look at the size of these ones. These are called Paul Robeson tomatoes, and this looks like 2 together, but they're very meaty. They're a beefsteak type of tomato, and they're very meaty and very tasty.
And they don't have lots and lots of.
You can see this is a slice of one of them, and they're very meaty.
There's not lots of juices in them, and they taste really good, particularly warm.
So today what I'm going to do, and you can see it on the video too, is I'm going to be cutting them up and I'm going to be roasting them. So I'll give you the instructions on that. Okay, our 4-minute timer rang. So now I'm going to, rather than getting new water that I have to heat up again, I just use this straining spoon and scoop them out. And I'm getting cold water on them right away. Yeah, I could have a basin full of cold water to dip them into as well, but this works. I just hate wasting the water and then you have to wait for it to get hot again, and so you can get into a good groove when they're all done. So yeah, just rinse them up in the colander.
Essentially, blanching does just an initial pre-cook, and I don't know exactly what.
I think it's because in the freezer, then they'll stay stable. I don't know if they dry out or they.
Well, it might take a little bit of the
water,
water out or something
like,
along those lines.
I don't know. And so now I'll start it to boil again while this is draining. And I'll just let that drain for a bit. I'm just going to get ready to roast the thing. But in my roasting process, what I also do is I put garlic in it and roast the garlic. So I went in the garden, I picked a few garlics. Bulbs. And I'm putting parchment paper down to put the tomatoes on so I can put them in the oven. So we did these for lunch, so I'm just going to throw them on here, but I normally just quarter them. And what I'm going to do, then you salt and pepper them and roast them. I have to look at how long I did last year, because my recipe that I did is, I didn't write it down because I think it's different than the recipe that I followed, how it worked for me, that I actually didn't have to I could just use the immersion blender and make the sauce, and I didn't have to cook it down because they were really, it was thick enough for our purposes. Okay, so the water's boiled again. And now I'm going to throw in these yellow beans. So while I'm waiting for that to blanch again, or when it comes to a boil. No, I have to, when it comes to a boil, I put the timer on. And, so I fill the bags up to what? We have 3 people in this household, so I put about what 3 people would probably eat.
So it turns out to be about, what, 3/4, 2/3 of the bag?
Yeah, something like that. You've got room to
seal it up.
Seal it up, yeah. Be interesting if I actually weigh them. See how
consistent
I am with the bags. Shall we do that?
Sure, you could, if you wanted.
Let's just see what I. Okay. What? 63 grams.
It's not there. You're sitting up.
No, it doesn't matter. They've all got the same bag, so. 51. 40. Ooh. I'm not consistent at all. 51.
You've got 251s.
47. Maybe I should just add a little bit. Make it about 75.
You have to add a lot to some of them. Not all beans are created equal either.
Oh, 70. Now how can that be? It's less than what it was. There. Not close enough. Okay. Thought it was pretty consistent. So I kind of did handfuls, but yeah. Extra handfuls there.
Again, some beans are going to be lighter than other beans, right? Because they've got a different diameter and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So-
how they fit in the bag.
So volume is probably a better measure than the mass is.
I don't know about you, but I save also all of our pies that we get from the bulk barn, or elastics from broccoli, or
Different kinds of
asparagus, or
groceries.
anything like that, so I can use them.
And we
So I'm kind of just pushing the air out.
so they take up less space in the freezer. And Tricia, before she went camping, cleaned out the freezer downstairs. So we have a completely empty freezer downstairs, ready to take the new
This
product
year's
and process.
produce.
Yeah.
So at least I know too, that I use the produce that's up here in this freezer before I grab it from that freezer. Because I still have beans from last year that we can use. So I think last year, well, we had so many beans, and we planted less this year. We had so many beans that we would have had to have them at least once a week, if not twice. And I don't know about you, but don't always want beans twice a week. So, okay, I'm gonna dump this now because I've used it a bunch of times. And
It's a little discolored, if nothing else. So
Yeah.
there's going to be a little bit of dirt and all that kind of stuff from the garden still in it.
well, I did do a rinse right downstairs, but there still is. But
A little bit.
that's the nice thing about the blanching thing too. It does remove all the dirt
Yeah.
as well too. There we go. Okay, waiting for, we have to now process or take the ends off the rest of the beans in in order to continue. But in the meantime, I will do my tomatoes. So, talk to you later when we do the tomatoes. See you then. Hi there, back again on this Saturday. Thank goodness we are not outside. It is raining and thundering. So, today, part of it, we picked all these tomatoes. So I want to roast them for tomato sauce. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting out all the bad, well, not the bad bits, but just the stems, and I'm not even taking the skin off or anything. But these huge ones here, so you have the core of the tomato, and yeah, there's some soft spots that we don't want. And then on the bottom here, there is some skin that has the tough parts to it. For whatever reason, I'm not sure if that's what they call blossom end rot or something, but yeah, it isn't rot, I know, but maybe it heals itself. I don't know, but I think it's because they get so big that they're splitting, and that's how they're. So doesn't matter. You can take them off, take those pieces off, and again, you can just cut them up into pieces like this, quarter. It's not really quarter because it's a huge tomato. But basically just putting them on the sheet like this, and then we'll put them in the oven. So I'm going to put the oven on at 425, so conventional it'd be 400 and start. So by the time that's done up, I should have a plate. Recording?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, you can see I'm cutting out the bits and some of the stuff on the bottom. It's just skin deep anyways, like it's not, there's nothing rotten about it or anything, but it's
just a blemish.
Yeah, and you just don't want that bit of hardness in the sauce that you're making. So
those are gorgeous tomatoes though.
yeah,
I really like the dark color, and
yeah, they make a rich looking sauce as well. So if you're wondering what variety they are, these are called Paul Robeson's. I think I've seen other ones so they are a type of
heritage brand, aren't they?
They are a heritage one. They are what you might call a beefsteak one. They do have more well, beefsteak tend to have a little bit more
flesh.
Flesh, but also more seeds as well too. This one is not too bad for seeds. So last year I actually did with our last tomatoes of the season, I saved seeds from last year's tomatoes and started the plants in February and planted them in our hoop house in mid-May. so wet and cold here that didn't get things planted as early as we wanted in the hoop house. But
it's been a very wet summer.
Yeah, we have hardly had to water in our gardens
A couple
at
of
all.
times. Yeah. The hoop house, of course, needs to be watered on
Yeah.
a regular basis because it doesn't get water.
Obviously, it's covered up. But we're going to be lucky then because we have a huge amount of tomatoes coming that we're going to be able to, they're going to be able to ripen in there, which is great. Last year we had to, because of frost, we get an early frost in September, and we've got to we've got to pick our tomatoes green, and then they have to ripen up, and you don't actually get them all to ripen up. It doesn't work as well. So that's the reason why we got the hoop house, so we'd have a little bit of a longer season, that our tomatoes can ripen. It gets hotter in there for cucumbers and the tomatoes. I think it's probably luckily that we had the hoop house because the tomatoes are getting whatever heat they can now. And this is such a nice one. I think I'm going to keep that one. This one's ripening. That's a nice one. Okay.
Remember how we used to have to pick all of our tomatoes green when we lived in Calgary?
Yeah, well, we had to do it here too, but all of them had to be.
Yeah, exactly.
We lived in Calgary for a while, and all of them had to be. So you can see these ones are a little bit, these ones are kind of a slicing tomato. And they're much more civilized in their growing.
So our first frost date for this year is supposed to be September 21st to September 30th.
So the tomatoes will have a little bit longer time to ripen. And
The sides of our hoop house are still up at this point in time, so sometime later in August we'll probably have to pull them down to start conserving heat in the inside.
I don't know about that. Hopefully we'll get a nice warm September,
lengthy.
like we do sometimes.
Yep. Well, and typically we don't have severe frosts until later in October.
Okay, so I've got a whole tray of tomatoes here. So I'm going to put sea salt on it. There's my oven ready, just not quite ready with the garlic yet. So, and pepper,
Ground black pepper?
I don't have the ground, don't have any.
It is ground black
Well,
pepper by the time you're putting it on,
Yeah.
because you're grinding it.
Now, if you don't have fresh garlic, because this garlic's gonna get roasted then, you can just put some garlic powder on it if you like. And then, let's see.
Olive oil?
Oh, yeah. Got some in here. Some olive oil and kind of drizzle it over. That'll be nice tasting in the sauce as well, but it just stops it from
drying out totally?
Drying out totally. Well, you want the moisture to leave, but you don't want them to burn and stick either. So anyway, I picked the garlic that we planted that probably should be planted. Now this is not then dried out for the skins to come off easily, so I don't know how well this is going to go. Just wash here. So I'll put a whole bulb of garlic in it. Where's my knife? Let's see. So I just throw them on whole because they are going to roast and they are going to cook and they are going to be blended. Okay, so here's my roasted tomatoes. So they were in the oven for about at 425. So the convection oven for 400. For about 45-50 minutes. So they're a little bit browned here, or blackened, whatever. But everything's, so now I let them cool off, because it kind of congeals the liquid a little bit. So now I'm going to put them into a pot or a bowl. You can use a bowl too, because I put it in the pot just in case I do want to reduce it a little bit more. So I've got my immersion blender now, and so at this point too, you could add some herbs if you want them in your sauce, like basil, fresh basil or anything like that. I don't do it because I add it when I'm cooking it, because I don't know what I'm going to use this sauce for anyways. So I basically just have the salt, pepper, and garlic in it. So here we go. Okay. So here's the sauce. It's fairly thick. I'm not going to reduce it anymore because I don't know what I'm going to be using it for. So it's going to be great for adding for chilies, making tomato sauce, pasta sauce. If I do want it thicker, I can add some tomato paste to it. But then this could be used in soups as well too. And yeah, all those tomatoes, so a whole tray. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it all into a bag.
Let me do that over the sink.
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
Makes the light a little bit better as well. We get a lot of light from the west sun when it's going down because it's 7 o'clock here.
Okay, so we got our tomato juice, tomato sauce, and
In a big Ziploc bag.
Big Ziploc bag. Take as much air out as you can. And there we go. Now,
Lay it flat
I freeze it flat because it's easier
to stack them.
to stack them and in the freezer. So it doesn't take as much space if I just plunk them in. So that means I have to get just another little tray to put them in the freezer then while it freezes. So today we got a thing of tomato sauce. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bags of green beans and 1.5 of yellow. And
So far,
and then I've got these beans to put in bags yet, and we have a whole pail yet of green beans to do. So yeah, we've still got some work to do tonight.
we'll have a bean cleaning party.
Tonight. Yes, so anyways, that's our start of our harvest basically is what we're doing. We're I guess the next things we're going to do is like
Blueberries
pick some
tomorrow?
Well, we're going to pick some blueberries tomorrow so you can see how I process those. And we're also going to pick the garlic. So
Oh,
we can
okay.
show you how we pick the garlic that I planted last fall.
Potatoes are coming soon.
And the potatoes are dying off, so they're going to be ready to pick in maybe a couple weeks, week or two.
More tomatoes
So,
and beans.
And then we'll continue with the beans. Probably
Squash.
one more picking of beans while they're on the vine, and then we'll have another picking when we actually take them off the support system for good. So yeah, squashes we'll have to look because I don't really see
I
a lot
didn't
of
see much
squashes
of anything.
yet.
There's lots of blooms, but
not any
I don't see any
actual
fruits.
fruit yet. So yeah, we'll have to see about that. But I mean, squashes can go right into the
I saw
fall.
one watermelon.
Oh, really?
About that big.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. And yeah, so we'll hopefully be able to update you on that and give you maybe a garden tour soon. So thanks for hanging out with me today and processing our first real big garden harvest. Talk to you later. Bye.